serious state of mind at the last. You will no doubt like me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion, joyful, or as in the present case, distressing. I have delivered it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation and festal days. The last time I delivered it was in the cathedral as a charity sermon on the behalf of the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the Upper Orders. The bishop who was present was much struck by some of the analogies I drew.
Ah, Dr. Chandler, that reminds me. I believe you mentioned Christian. You do know how the Christian are like.
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I've often spoken to the poorer classes on the subject, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
But is there any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
Oh, no, Doctor, it wasn't for any child. I'm very fond of children. The fact is, I myself would like to be Christian this afternoon if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
I have no memory of it.
But have you any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have. That is, if you're nothing unwise, I'm too old now.
Not at all. Sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
You need have no apprehensions. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, or indeed I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what hour would you wish the ceremony performed?
Oh, I might trot round about 5, if that would do.
Perfectly, perfectly. In fact, I have 2 similar ceremonies to perform at that time. A case of twins that occurred recently in one of the outlying cottages on your own estate. Poor Mr. Jenkins, the carter, was hard-working man.
Oh, I think it'd be silly if I was baptized along with other babies. It'd be a little bit childish. Might I trot round about 5:30 instead?
Admirably, admirably. But now, Mr. Worthing, I wish to intrude no longer into the house of sorrow. I would merely beg you not to be too much bowed down by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me a blessing of the most obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! Oh, I am glad to see you back. But what horrid clothes you've got on. You do want to change them.
Cecily.
My child, my child.
Uncle Jack, what's the matter? You look as if you have a toothache. And I have such news for you. Guess who's in the drawing room? Your brother!
Who?
Your brother, Earnest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
But I haven't got a brother.
Don't say that, Uncle Jack. No matter how badly he may behave to you in the past, he's still your brother. And you wouldn't be so kind as to disown, would you? I'll go get him. And you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are joyful tidings.
After we'd all been resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems to me peculiarly distressing.
My brother in the dining room? I don't know what it can mean.
Brother John, I have come up all the way from town expressly to apologize to you for my behavior and to announce my intention of reforming myself.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand, are you?
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. You know perfectly well why. I find his coming down here disgraceful.
Do be kind, Uncle Jack. There's some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor friend Mr. Bunbury, who he goes to visit so often. And surely there is some good in someone who leaves the pleasures of London to go sit by a bed of pain.
He's been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he's told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else. Not to drive one frantic.
I must say, I find Brother John's reaction to me very disturbing. I think the fault is all mine, but I've expected some more enthusiastic welcome. I mean, this is the first time I've ever been here.
Uncle Jack, if you do not accept your brother's hand, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me?
Never, never, never!
Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
It's wonderful, is it not? See so perfect a reconciliation? We might leave the 2 brothers together.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, my little task of reconciliation is complete.
You've done a beautiful action today, dear child.
We must not be premature in our judgments.
I feel very happy.
Algy, you young scoundrel! Just get out of this place at once! I won't allow any Bunbury in here.
I've put Mr. Worthing's things in the room next to yours, sir.
What?
I've put Mr. Worthing things in the room as yours.
What
I'm
things?
afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Merriman, order the dog on at once. Mr. Earnest has been suddenly called back to town.
Yes, sir.
You're a fearful liar, Jack. I haven't been called anywhere.
Yes, you have.
I haven't heard anyone calling me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures to the smallest degree. I quite understand that. Well, Cecily is a darling.
I'm not. You will not talk of Miss Cardew like that. I do not like it.
Well, I don't like her clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why don't you go up and change? It's absurd to be in mourning for a man who'll be staying in your house as a guest for the better part of a week.
You are not staying in my place as a guest or anything else.
I suppose you're going to say that I've got to pass your 4-5 train. Well, I certainly won't leave you. Not while you're in mourning. If I were in mourning, I expected you'd stay with me. I think you'd be very unkind if you didn't.
Will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you're not too long about it. I've never seen anyone take so long to dress, and with such little result.
So always overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally overdressed, I make up for it by being always immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous, and your conduct an outrage. Your presence in my garden is utterly absurd. However, you've got to catch the 4-5 train, and I hope you have a pleasant journey back to town. This bun-bearing, as you call it, has not been a great success to you. This is you.
I think it has been a great success. I am in love with Cecily, and that is everything. But I must see her before I go. Make arrangements for another Bunbury. Ah, here she is.
Oh, I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were on the Jack.
He's going to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, are you going for a drive?
He's sending me away.
Then we have to part?
I'm afraid so. It's a very painful parting.
Yes, parting from people whom one has just met is always absolutely unbearable. Parting from old friends one can bear with equanimity, which is often very hard to part from people one has just met.
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Norman, for 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
Miss Cecily, I hope I don't seem too forward if I say to you that you seem to me to be the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you will allow me, I will copy remarks into my diary.
Oh, you keep a diary? I'd give anything to read it, ma'am.
Oh, no! You see, it is merely the thoughts and reflections of a young girl, and consequently it is meant for publication. But once it is published, I hope you will purchase a copy. Now do go on, Ernest. I have reached absolute perfection. I'm quite ready for more.
Oh.
Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one is to speak quite fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Cecily, ever since I've met you, I've dared to love you deeply, wildly, passionately, hopelessly.
I don't think you should tell me you love me deeply, wildly, passionately, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense here, does it?
Cecily!
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Oh, tell her to come around next week, same time.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if you were staying until next week at the same hour.
I don't care what Uncle Jack thinks. I only care about you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Of course, you silly boy. Why, we've been engaged these last 3 months. It will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since Uncle Jack mentioned to us that he had a very wicked younger brother, you have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and his prison. And of course, one who is much talked about is always very attractive. You mustn't think it foolishly, Ernest, but I fell in love with you.
Darling. And when was our engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last. Worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I was determined to end the matter one way or another. And so I accepted you. The next day, I went out and bought this little ring you'll make. And here's the ring for true love is not, which I promised you always to wear.
This is very pretty. I bought this for you.
Yes, you've wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given you for leading such a horrible life. And here's the box in which I kept all of your letters.
But dear Cecily, I never wrote you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember only too well that I was supposed to write your letters for you. I wrote 3 times a week, and sometimes oftener.
Well, I'd give anything to read them?
Oh no! It would make you far too conceited. The way you wrote to me after we broke off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But Cecily, was our engagement ever broken off?
Yes, the 22nd of last March. You can see the entry if you like. Today I broke it off with Earnest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But Cecily, why did you break it off? What had I done? I'd done nothing. I must say, I find it very harsh of you to break off our engagement, especially when the weather was so charming.
It would have hardly been a real engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But I forgave you before the week was out. You silly romantic boy. I hope your hair grows naturally, does it?
Well, yes, with a little help from others.
I'm glad to hear it.
You will never break off our engagement again, will you, Cecily?
I don't think I could now that I've actually met you. And of course, there is the question of your name.
Yes.
You mustn't laugh at me, Earnest. But it has always been a girlish dream of mine to marry someone called Earnest. The name inspires such confidence. I could see any poor married woman whose husband isn't called Earnest.
But Cecily, you don't mean to tell me that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest?
But what other name?
Oh! I don't know, any other name. Any old name. Say, Algernon, for instance?
But I don't like the name Algernon.
Well, Cecily, I must say, I find it quite hard of you to dislike the name Algernon. I mean, it's a quite decent name. Half the fellows in the bankruptcy court are named Algernon. It's quite an aristocratic name. But, seriously, Cecily, do you mean to say that if my name were Algernon, you couldn't love me?
I might respect you, Earnest. I might admire your character, but I don't feel I could give you my absolute devotion.
Cecily, your rabbi here is, I presume, versed in all the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh yes, he's never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
Very well. I must see you at once on the most important business. Can't be more than half an hour.
Considering we've been engaged 3 months and I've only just met you, I think it's very unfair of you to leave me for half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be packing a flag.
What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much. I must enter his proposal into my diary.
Miss Fairfax has just called. A very important matter, Miss Fairfax state.
Is it Mr. Worthing in his library?
Mr. Worthing headed off to the direction of the directory some time ago.
Well, tell Miss Fairfax to come out here, and I suppose you'd better bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax, no doubt one of the good elderly women associated with Uncle Jack's philanthropic work. I hate women who do philanthropic work. I think it is so forward of them.
Miss Fairfax?
Pray, let me introduce myself. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew? What a very sweet name. I like you already more than I can say. I feel we are going to be great friends. My first impressions of people are never wrong. I may always call you Cecily, may I not?
Yes, with pleasure.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
Of course.
Then that is all settled, is it not?
I hope so.
Perhaps this would be a good time for me to introduce myself. My father is Lord Bracknell. You have never heard of Papa, I suppose?
I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think that is quite as it should be. I think the home to be the most proper sphere for a man, and certainly once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mama, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It is part of her system, so do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Oh, of course not. I'm very fond of being looked at.
Here on a short visit, I suppose.
Oh no, I live here.
Really? Your mother or some female relative of advanced years resides here also?
No, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed.
My guardian, with the assistance of his prison, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh. It is strange he never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. However, I cannot say that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. Cecily, I have liked you ever since I met you. I'm very fond of you, but Worthing's ward, I just can't help expressing a wish you were a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly,
Pray do.